2023 wasn't a good year for the Carolina Panthers, but I'm trying to make 2024 a better one for myself. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including keto options, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Skip that overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door, and they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Head to factormeals.com/C350 and use the promo code C350 to get 50% off. That's code C350 at factormeals.com/C350 to get 50% off.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Perfect. Yo, what's the deal, Panther fans? It's your boy, Tony Dunn, a.k.a. The Professor. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast, bonus edition, Carolina Panthers 2021 schedule release, and maybe a Teddy teaser at the end for some of the comments that are floating around about the coaching staff. But as always, we appreciate your time. Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button. Be a part of the longest running Panthers podcast out there, just like my co-host is a part of that podcast. Cody Lashney, what's up, my man?
Tone it done, man. We're back again. One night later, we're here to talk about some schedule, man. We're going to go through it and see what we make of this, where we think we're going to get some wins and some losses. And, didn't Teddy Bridgewater want to act as a chump? And, like he's been known to do. So, we'll talk about that a little bit too, man. But we still got people rolling into the chat room, but we already got Taylor Stepp, Jocelyn Price, Chad Morales. Hey, man, we're ready to talk about this, Tony. I'm pumped, man. Nothing to it but to do it. Let's roll.
So the NFL does a great job in dominating a news cycle, right? And in a way, they have tried to continue this by, making the draft more and more of a showcase experience where, and really you saw it before the pandemic with how big the combine was in coverage. And it just always seemed like this. The Super Bowl was over, the combine comes, then there's draft coming up, then there's free agency, then there's the draft, and they're able to dominate the headlines. And they do that just like they did today with a lot of drama, kind of like with free agency where you see the leaks of the players coming out. Today we kept hearing news, week 1 is the Jets, and then a couple hours later you'd hear week 2 and 3. So the Carolina Panthers schedules come out, and one of the big changes this year, Cody, is that there is an extra game in it.
Yeah, we have an extra game. We were actually going through that before we went live here, trying to comb through, what games were added, which one was based on where we ranked in our division as opposed to others. Overall, I'm not too upset with the schedule and how it's looking. I'm going to go ahead and throw up this graphic here. Apologies, it's not a little easier to read. I don't know if that makes it any better, but there it is, man. And I mean, honestly, having a home game in, to open the season, I feel like that's kind of something that we don't get very often. And that's something that we've got now. And boy, what an opener, huh? Sam Darnold against his former team. And we're going to be able to see the number 2 pick in the draft and Zach Wilson and what they're able to do. And whether or not our defensive backfield has been able to make an upgrade from what we had last season. So I mean, does anything stick out to you so far? I mean,
Well, right away, before we even get to that Jets
yeah,
matchup, you add the extra game and they shave a preseason game off, right? And
yeah,
we're always debating whether or not the preseason is interesting or not. And so we'll just be interested to see what the dynamics are and trying to figure out what how you kind of identify the 53-man roster. And I wonder if there's any changes in the size of the roster because of this extra game. There are not 2 buys. That's another thing. There's just 1 bye week, from what I can tell, right? So three preseason games, and then, like you said, this opener. And what is it kind of a strangely and oddly a very interesting match, an exciting game in some ways, is that you're going to get to see the debut of Zach Wilson and the new coaching staff of Robert Saleh coming to town to take on their former, big time draft pick in Sam Darnold. The Carolina Panthers have risked a lot or kind of hedged a lot of bets on Sam Darnold. So, I mean, the talk of the town is going to be like how this showcases these 2 moments for the franchise, right?
yeah.
And I mean, you can't really draw that up any better as a way to introduce these 2 teams and how their futures are going to look, except for that game right away.
Yeah, the real Zero Chill says, I believe Sam will dominate the Jets. And man, that's what I'm hoping. I put on Twitter, Sam's going to throw for over 400 yards against the Jets, man. I believe it, dude. I'm choosing to believe. Like, listen, like, especially going into this year, and we've talked about this before, like the excitement levels going into this year compared to just last year. To me, it's like night and day difference. Yeah, I mean, it really is. Like, we're hoping that Sam Darnold can turn it around and be something. But just based on first glance, I think our schedule early on is favorable. And at least the first 3 games. And tell me where you think my logic is flawed here, Tony. So we have the Jets. They were picking number 2. They have a brand new head coach. So they have a lot left to prove. A young rookie quarterback, right? Then we're still at home against the division rival New Orleans Saints, who just got rid of or moved on from their Hall of Fame quarterback. And we really don't know what their starting quarterback situation is going to be. It's going to be a battle between Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. And maybe Ian Book, but I doubt that shit seriously. And so that's a good opportunity to be 2-0. And then week 3, dude, everyone is predicting that the Houston Texans, obviously because it's looking like they're not going to have Deshaun Watson, that the Texans might have the first pick in the draft next year. So, I mean,
They should. I mean,
yeah,
like there's
I mean,
the way their roster is in some ways, they could have the number 1 pick with Deshaun Watson at this point.
and dude, imagine the confidence level that could be built in Sam Darnold if he's able to get a big W in week 1 and then go through weeks 2 and 3 on an undefeated team. Like, if we're able to get that first little bump at the start of the season, man, I feel like we could have limitless potential.
I know I saw Josh Klein put this out there today from the Riot Report, and it was a little snarky in its essence. But I mean, there's kind of 2 sides to the story, and that was he's like, I'm already hearing people saying week 1 is a must win. And he was saying, like, come on, that's ridiculous. I think that's what he was implying. And in some ways, I mean, in many ways, he's right, because there's 17 more games to play, 16 more games to play after that. And 1 game is not going to determine your season entirely. But on the other hand, is that there are momentum points and confidence points and how things work. And I still go back to losing to Denver on the road on Denver in 2016, the first game back, removed from the Super Bowl, where they went headhunting on Cam. And it really, we were
Terrible.
so close to winning that game with a Graham Gano field goal.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like if that it just always felt like if we would have won that 1 game, the dominoes that year would have gone a different way.
it might have just felt different. And you know, I get who did you say, was it Josh Klein that was kind of being snarky about it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything big deal, but it was like, come on,
Yeah,
guys, already must win. But I do
right.
think there's some merit here because you have
Yeah, for sure.
not only from a PR standpoint, but right now is that it seems like the one of the big question marks with Sam Darnold and some of these quarterbacks who struggled early in their career is how do they regain a sense of confidence? And
Yeah.
you know, and it's like this is that, and that's why the Jets have moved on from him in a certain way. Is that like it's just not going to work here? It seems like, and if he starts off on a bad note against his former team, I just feel like that could contribute a lot to the head case development. And I don't think he is that. Everybody says he's like remarkably cool under, you know, like he doesn't let things phase him and stuff like that. But I think it's a very important game for the staff. I think it's an important game for setting a tone, a statement that the decisions you made were logical or good ones. And I got to believe that Joe Brady and Matt Rule are saying this. We're going to make him look good this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's certainly something to be said about it, considering how one organization just blatantly chose one of these quarterbacks over the other. You know, and especially we're trying to prove that the Jets had a franchise quarterback and that they didn't treat him right. So look, we're gonna be that new boyfriend that's got the dime piece on their arm that's trying to show off and be like, yeah, mine now. I'm gonna treat her the way you didn't, bro. You know, excuse my analogy here, but that's kind of what it feels like. Like, I'm gonna treat this quarterback the way you were never able to. So yeah, it's very important. It's not, again, he's right in that it's not an absolute must win. But again, especially for Sam's confidence after how things ended, like this is a big home opener for, honestly, for the Jets and the Panthers. I mean, this is big on all fronts for them. You know, even to the point, okay, so we have to mention this at some point or another. We only have one primetime game. And that's week 3 against, and that's week 3 against Houston. I'm kind of surprised that with that kind of story, that the one primetime game that we get, I'm surprised that it isn't that one, Jets and Carolina, just because the story in and of itself is worth it, you know. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say is like, what kind of world is the Jets and the Texans and the Panthers a primetime game?
Yeah, dude, I could not tell you that's the head scratcher on the list. I don't know why that would be the Monday night game. Yeah, that's kind of crazy to me. But then, okay, we already kind of talked about the first 3. Let's continue to move down that list. So then week 4, we're on the road, 1 p.m. against Dallas.
See, this is good. If you hit that momentum point, like you're talking about, the Jets, say you pull one off at the Saints, say somehow you start 3-0, right? 2-1, but 3-0 right here, walking into Dallas. I think that Dallas is a beatable team.
Yeah, and the NFC East, so just as a whole, it's inconsistent. Like, I remember it used to be.
They'll have Dak back.
Well, yeah, but true. But the NFC South, I remember it used to be that division where nobody really knew, like, who was going to be the dominant team. And I feel like now that's the NFC East. Like, I mean, you name it. Philly, Washington, Dallas. Like, there really is no true front runner I guess it's Dallas, just because Dak is probably now the most seasoned quarterback in that division, which is weird.
I don't think so. I think it's actually the Washington football team that is the people that have first. They won the division last year. Yes, they did it again with a losing record.
Who's their quarterback?
They did get Fitzmagic, yes, and that is a giant. Okay. I mean, if anything, that he's never made the playoffs in his entire career, which is crazy. But he can sling it. And I think, and he's been in the league for and he's played for 17 different teams. You know, it's like insanity.
He played for every NFL team.
And I was thinking, I mean, with Dak too, I think while everybody believes that you just come back from injury and you plug and play and everything was great, and you see he was throwing for like 500 plus early on last year before that, you never know how injury, like what the rehab's going on. And it's just the Mike McCarthy is just such a shit show, right? Is that I don't really have a lot of faith in the Stars going into this year. I think if anything, it's Washington football team that's probably like the strongest team in the division, with the Giants kind of a team that could surprise a lot of people this year.
Yeah.
Added a lot of pieces on offense. They are going, it's kind of like Dave Gettleman's basically a statement of what he did wrong while he was here in Carolina. He's drafted offensive line last year, I think, and now they're trying to add weapons. They got Tony. They also added Kenny Galladay. So if he can stay healthy, and I think they have like maybe Sterling Shepard. So they got some players on the team, and maybe Saquon. And I think also that they've added a lot to the secondary. James Bradbury's returning. So I think the Giants are a team that it really kind of just depends on Daniel Jones. Is he going to stink like he has so far? Or now is it going to start to come together with the talent? But the Washington football team's defense is no joke, brother.
Dude, that defense is legitimately has the potential to be terrifying, especially especially their defensive front. Like, dude, Chase Young, the Allen guy that they drafted a few years ago. They have 2 Alabama defensive tackles. Then they have Montez Sweat. I mean, they've got some dudes, man.
They added a linebacker, I think, in like round 1 this year.
They've made some moves, man. They've definitely done a few things. I think they took Jamin Davis out of Kentucky, who was the guy that, frankly, I think the Panthers could have used. Really tall, fast inside linebacker prospect out of Kentucky. But yeah, that defensive front, and listen, isn't that so true to Ron Rivera though? Like Ron Rivera just wants to play punch you in the mouth defense. It's like we don't really have to wonder too much what we're going to see in that game. I mean, I think the biggest question mark is going to be what kind of offense is Washington going to have in that time period. But yeah, I kind of.
But without diverting too much into the Washington football team, I'm sorry, I kind of distracted. It's like that's what I mean with the NFC East. But here, after week 4, is that Dallas could be a really good team. Dak could come back and they could be really good all of a sudden. They got a new defensive coordinator. They're trying to make some changes and get that where there were some real deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball. Look, everybody was putting up 40 against them last year, but this might be a very tough matchup for the Carolina Panthers, or it could be a winnable game. And then you return home in week 5, and you got 2 more games that are potentially all winnable games right now. The Eagles, right? The Eagles, we don't know what they're going to look like with, I guess, Hurd. Is it Jalen Hurd?
Yeah, they have Jalen Hurts. And they just drafted Devonta Smith, who was my wide receiver number 1. Again, some of these games, too, like you just don't know about. So, like Dallas, they had a lot of injuries on their offensive line, right? And then, of course, Dak Prescott was injured. Their defense was terrible last year, and then they went and spent a first and second round pick upgrading their defense. So, I mean, that's where Micah Parsons went. So they have a legit linebacking core now.
And everybody said they wanted JC Horn or Surtain. Who did they get in the second round?
They got Kelvin Joseph, the corner from Kentucky, who I loved. He was in my top 5 corners. He had a bunch of like off the field issues too, and I think that's kind of why teams were hesitant. But he's a baller. And then week 6 Minnesota, and again that's a team where you just don't really know too much what kind of next step they're going to take. They still have Kirk Cousins. They drafted a left tackle in the first round with Darashaw, and then they drafted the guy from Texas A&M, Kellen Mond, the quarterback. So. Again,
they're a strange team, man. Is that it's kind of weird sometimes when a team's like identity shifts, or the perception of a team's identity for me shifts. I've always been worried about Minnesota's defense. is that like
Yeah.
for the last whatever decade, and now, and Zimmer's a defensive coach. They've always
Right.
been a tough, mean defense, and they were talented. And it seems like as those guys have aged out a little bit, that a lot of the talent has shifted almost accidentally to the offensive side of the ball, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins, the Jefferson kid is like blew it up last year.
And did you see what I put on Twitter when he was like basically taking shots at Kirk Cousins? Justin Jefferson was like doing an interview with Cowherd, I think it was, and it didn't sound like he had glowing reviews of
Really?
Kirk. Yeah, it was actually pretty funny.
Interesting addition. Well, just one name to keep an eye out for. Blake Prohl, Ricky Prohl's son, who attended East Carolina and didn't really have that much of a career here, left a year early. He went undrafted but signed with the Minnesota Vikings. So you can watch the Prohl kid maybe.
Yeah,
if the opportunity's there. Now again, boom, we're at week 7 right here, and I'm not afraid of any of these guys so far.
Yeah, right now, none of these teams really like. Honestly, listen, and this is really being real. Looking at this schedule, there are 2 teams to me that I look at and I instantly know, damn, that is going to be a scrap. And then there's another wild card game in there that has the potential to be really, really tough. And then listen,
I take it's not the New York Giants.
No, it's not. Well, look, let's continue to go in order here in threes. Okay, so that's week 6. Then week 7 we go on the road to New York. Then on the road again to Atlanta, week 8, and then the big one, baby. This is the one that we're all circling on the calendar. We're probably gonna. It feels like we're gonna try our hardest to maybe do some kind of meetup during the season, and that might happen at this game. Cam Newton coming home, baby, coming home with a different football team, looking to get some revenge on the team that let him go. Dude, that's gonna be hard, Tony. It's gonna be hard watching Cam Newton play the Panthers.
Well, we're all gonna be there. We're gonna have to rally at your house, man, and go together because that is my birthday week. My birthday is the 11th, so it's a perfect time for me to make it a celebrate. Like, this is why I can all sell it to my family of why this weekend is going to be devoted to this. But you're right; it's going to be an interesting point, or it's going to be it's going to be tough emotionally for a lot of us. Like, I'm going to wear my Cam Newton jersey when I go up in there.
How could you not? Yeah, yeah.
Right. I'll be cheering for the Carolina Panthers to win. But it will be different it'd be nice to see Cam on the field again for me. Like, it's been a while since I've seen him play in person. I was CK and I were both there in the game he got hurt 2 years ago. That effectively became his last game. I think it was Tampa Bay. Week 2 or something like that. But yeah, that's going to be difficult and not easy. We're probably talking about week 8 and week 9 being the 2 toughest matchups outside of New Orleans on the whole schedule to that point. The Patriots have loaded up on offense. This is kind of a brutal 3-week stretch for us. Week 8 on the road against the Falcons, at home against the Patriots, then on the road against the Cardinals, and then back at home. This is a brutal stretch because look at the next games. We better start out 5-0.
Yeah,
because things could get ugly around week 9.
Well, okay. Do you remember my tried and true saying, or I feel it's tried and true, that we really don't know who an NFL team is through after about week 6? Like,
right. You've said this a lot. Yeah. That's when we learn who's the real deal usually. Unless they're Pittsburgh.
That's when you get to see the wheat separated from the chaff or whatever the fuck's it's called. As you start to get into the colder months, that late October, early November football, that's when you're hoping that you're healthy, that your guys are starting to peak at that point in time. As it gets colder, you have to be ready to play some hardcore football. And I don't mind saying that. I mean, up until week 7, like none of these teams have me shaking in my boots. Atlanta, they're a division rival, and we know their offense is loaded, right? And they added Kyle Pitts, and that's going to be the first time of many times that we're going to see Kyle Pitts versus J.C. Horn. And I'm ready for that, dude. I think there was no player in last year's draft who went up against Kyle Pitts that did better than J.C. Horn. I mean, they got the better of each other, but dude, no one gave Kyle the problems that JC did. So I'm pumped for that. Yeah, up until week 9. And then from week 9 on out, you can say that every matchup from then on has the potential to be brutal.
Yes, yeah, like almost everyone could be a loss in some ways, if you, I mean, in a weird way.
And the Cardinals are loaded.
Yes, the Cardinals are just getting better and better everywhere, it seems like. The Dolphins in week 12. So then you get Ron Rivera in the mean defense. You know, he wants a little revenge too. There's another cool storyline there. So you have Cam and in week 9, then you're on the road against what could be a scorching hot Cardinals team. I'm almost curious to see what the Cardinals schedule looks like through, where they'll be sitting at.
Yeah, they added JJ Watt. They, they've really added some players to that team. And by the way, even with the Patriots, it's not just, I mean, obviously the Cam Newton thing is the biggest story going into it, but they added a ton
2
of
tight
players.
ends.
Hunter Henry, they added a ton of players in free agency.
What about this? What if we are, all that hype is built up for us getting to see Cam Newton and then Mac Jones starts that week?
Dude, there's no fucking way.
It could be like an injury. It could be, watch us get there and then not even be Cam playing.
Bro, and you know what, man? If I do go to that, like, there's going to be part of me that has like a hole in my heart. Because I have never been to a Panthers game where Cam Newton was quarterbacking the team. Obviously, I've seen the games, but I went to my first game in an NFL stadium at all last year, and I did it 2 times, and it was incredible. But the fact that I might be at a game where Cam Newton is on the field and not with my team, dude, it burns, man. I'm telling you, it burns.
Here, let me just say, when do we play the Cardinals? What week?
10.
Okay, so here, just quick reaction. Tennessee, Cardinals at Titans, week 1. Is that a win or loss for the Cardinals?
Cardinals at Titans?
Yeah, that's week 1 for them.
Probably the Cards.
All right, so they're 1-0. Then they're on. Then they host Minnesota, so say 2-0. Then they are at Jacksonville. Maybe say 3-0 there.
Maybe I think that Trevor is going to hit the ground running.
Right. Okay. So you want to say they start out what, 2-1 then?
Yeah. Let's just say 2-1. I mean,
okay. And then so week 4 they are at Los Angeles. It's against the Rams. Then they got the 49ers.
They could be good. Both of those 2 teams could be very that division.
And then Cleveland. Ooh, that's a tough stretch for them.
They have a tough
Rams,
stretch.
Niners, and then at the Browns. So say they won one or 2 of those games. What does that put them at? 4-2. That would be the best case scenario. Then they get the Texans, so they could be 5-2. Then they get the Packers. Let's just give them another loss, whether it's either the Packers or the not, so 5-3.
If that's Aaron Rodgers, it's probably a loss.
San Francisco again. No. So they could be anywhere from like 5-4 or 7-2 by the time they come to Carolina.
Yeah. Maybe 6.
Or it's actually as we go there. So that's going to be an important game for them, right?
Yeah. Also, they're they've upgraded a ton on their defense. like a ton. Like they've really been making.
Did you hear the call? The guy they drafted, the call when the guy called him up and told him he was getting drafted?
No.
You haven't heard it?
But the Cardinals call? No.
Yeah.
I can find it if you want to.
I'll find it. All right. So all right, after the Cardinals, what do we got?
So yeah, from then we're moving to week 11, 12, and 14. 11, we're at home against the Washington football team and Ron Rivera. Then week 12, we are on the road against Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. And then week 14, we are at home against the Atlanta Falcons.
So this Zaven Collins is the guy.
Yeah, who I like a lot.
And I think he is going to be starting too. Like they've already. But listen.
Bam. What's the linebacker? Mac Jones.
Mac Jones. Perfect.
Quarterback.
Excellent. Got you guys.
Got it. All right, boys. We're going to make the pick.
Hello.
Zaven. Steve Kime.
Steve, how's it going?
Good, man. You got some dogs in the background? What do you got going on there?
Steve, how's it going? Sorry. Stop.
I didn't tell you I was picking you yet, man. Tell him to calm down a little bit.
Oh, my God.
That's fun.
Listen to this.
You ready to roll?
Steve, we're going to kill everyone. We're going to kill everyone.
We're going to fucking kill everyone.
Man.
That was his response.
Keep that mentality.
And we're going to get a Super Bowl ring so big on our finger that a show dog wouldn't be able to jump over.
I love it, man. I love it. We're good. We'll keep that attitude.
I like
Keep
that.
Dude, he said we're fucking going to murder them. He said we're going to fucking kill them. God. All right. I like that call. But yeah, and I think the Dolphins, man, are a team to be really concerned about. Like you said, with Tua, they added the big time receiver right in the draft. Their defense was badass last year, dude.
And they got my one of my draft crushes, Jalen Phillips, the defensive end from Miami. I did a video on him on this channel. And they got Christian Wilkins from Clemson. Dude, they are loaded, man. That's a good team. That whole division is really going to be tough. I mean, especially considering we don't know what the Jets are going to be, you know. It's actually kind of good that we get them early, I think. But the rest of those matchups from that division, they're going to be tough. But I agree with you, man, that they're doing things. That's one team that they were so close to the playoffs last year. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, they were 11-5, dude. They missed the playoffs. I mean, they were 11-5 and missed. All right. So then you get Atlanta at home in week 14. You're really talking about this is you're going to have to split with it. You got to split with all the division opponents if you want this schedule to be any worth a damn. Because week 9 it gets tough, man. I don't know. You're talking about the Pats, the Cardinals, the football team, the Dolphins. If we go 2-2 in that stretch, you gotta be happy. Right. So if you won against, how about this? Is that if you won against the Patriots and the Washington football team and lost to the Cardinals and the Dolphins, I count that as a win because you could really end up winning maybe one of those games.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: in your mind, outside of the Bucks, and I think I know. I mean, it's pretty easy to think what your answer might be, but our toughest matchup on this, to me, I have one game that I almost guarantee. I mean, depending on how things go up until that point, there's one game that I almost definitely paint as a loss.
Your crush, the Buffalo, the North Panthers North.
Keep rumbling. I mean, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Like that.
Well, I think I mean, I think them, and I think the Dolphins and those two teams would have me concerned with the Bucks. And
I think Buffalo probably scares me more than Miami, though, just because we know who Josh Allen is as opposed to Tua.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's going to be very important for them in Week 15. They're going to have a brutal schedule this year, I'm sure. So that's going to be either on, I guess, what is that, a Saturday or a Sunday? Let's see. Let me look at what the 19th is of December.
Swish, what's up, bro?
December 19th is Sunday. So they're either because, all right, so they'll start, we can play on a Saturday or Sunday. That is not a home, that's a road game too, right?
Against Buffalo.
Yeah, you got to go on the road. Yeah, go ahead and mark that down as a L.
And dude, it's week 15, so there's probably going to be a fucking blizzard up there.
Yeah.
That's
and then you got to play the Bucks twice. Look at this last 3-game stretch too. The whole from week 10 through 8 is like ridiculous.
Week 10 through 18 is absolutely
you might lose out.
But thank God we have a bye week 13. So that's actually now, I think, now that the schedule is longer, I'm actually happy that we have a bye later in the year. Because
I think you always want to buy later in the year. You know what I'm saying? And we've been screwed over the last few years getting buys like in week 5 and 7.
Dumb shit like that. Yeah, no, 100%. But I think especially now that they've added another game to the season, that's just more potential. That's 4 extra quarters in which you might end up getting hurt, So I like the ability to rest up. It comes at a good time too. Week 13, we're going into Atlanta. So we'll have a home game off of our bye against the division rival before we go on the road to Buffalo. So that's not terrible, The fact, but you're right though. From week 10 to 18, that's a murderer's row. But yeah, thank goodness we have a bye at week 13.
All right, so
shout out J.I. Jor, man, $2. Appreciate you, brother. Did y'all hear Teddy's comments on practice? So we're about to get to all of this, bro, for sure.
Yeah, we wanted to do the schedule first, just so we didn't go off on a crazy tangent with that and then never talk about the schedule.
Yeah, and to add to it, Matt Rule has started doing his press conference too, and he even had a response. Which which I have not watched yet, and I will play that live for us.
Heck yeah. Okay. So I guess any last thoughts on the schedule before we move on?
I want to hear from some of the people in the chat room. I mean, obviously, what games are you most excited for? What game do you think is going to be the hardest? And give us some predictions, man. Put some predictions in the chat as to what kind of team you think this will be next year. Obviously, everyone's going to have time to change their predictions before the start of the year. But I don't know, man. Right now, it's hard to say, man. I think it's very plausible that this team can win 9 games. Is that unreasonable? Like, do you think crazy?
Well, I think 9 to me is like, I think anything less than 9 is going to be slightly disappointing. I just feel like as, incremental steps forward, 5 last year, okay, I will be happy with 8, right? We could build off of 8. We could say, oh, we're heading the right direction and stuff. But I think if you hit 9 or above somehow, then you just really feel good about the direction instead of trying to talk yourself into it with the 8 wins. But yeah, I think is that if you don't win maybe 7 out of your first 10 games, I don't know if 9's possible.
Yeah. Jay Young says, I see us starting out 5-0, and we could end up being 9-11 wins. I would love that. I think that's not too unreasonable, man. I mean, just going through some of these,
it's kind of sleeping on New Orleans a little bit, man. Jameis they're not gonna be bums with Jameis.
Maybe. And like that team is still good. So if Jameis can do enough and be enough, they might. Again, it's just so hard to tell though, because it's so easy to say that but they have a good team, but when you lose Drew Brees, an NFL caliber or a
And they have
Hall
no
of Fame
cornerbacks.
caliber. Yeah, true. Well, I mean, they still have Marshawn Lattimore, right?
Yeah, but I think he has to serve a suspension now. And it might only be 2 games. Maybe I hope it's that means he won't be in that game, dude.
Oh, dude, Sam Darnold might legit have over 1,000 yards in his first 3 games. Dude, that would be incredible, would it not? Like those defensive backfields, I mean, they're kind of hurting, huh? The Jets, the Saints, and the Texans. Like I'm the draft tech analyst for Houston, so I can tell you that they need corners, and they didn't draft one. So, dude, Sam could really go crazy, man. Again, Sam
what
has
his punishment was for
Sam.
Lattimore.
Guys, Sam Darnold has no excuses, man. In my opinion, I mean, unless the offensive line just ends up being so much worse than we anticipated it being, the kind of weapons that we have, the kind of team that we've built through the draft and in free agency. I mean, again, it's like I feel like it's been so long now. It's easy to forget about like Hassan Reddick, who had 12 sacks last year. If him and Brian Burns can be a vicious tandem, and Derek Brown can eat up some space in the middle, our defense has the potential to play very, very fast and take the ball away. And, we want to be an aggressive defense. And that's also going to help Sam. Oh, hey, he threw an interception? No problem. Brian Burns and J.C. Horn are looking to make up for you, bro. That's like your team having your back.
Or them just giving you the more opportunities, even if you don't
100%,
screw it up. Is that like getting the ball back quickly?
100%.
We'll see. It'd be interesting. That Saints game is going to be a fun one to watch, especially if Lattimore, I think, is going to be suspended like 4 games because he got caught with a stolen handgun or something. So anyway,
Damn, bro.
Yeah, murderer's row on the back end. It was stupid. And he was like in Denver. He was somewhere where there was legal weed. And they got caught with legal weed. And it was legal. So they were about to let him go. And the guy said, are there any guns? And he admitted to having a gun, which I guess you have to at that point. And then it turned out to be like concealed and stolen. And it's like, oh God.
Yeah, and dude, he's coming.
And he almost could have got, he's about to get let go, and then Muggs ended up getting suspended for 4 games or something, 6 games or whatever.
But dude, like when he was first drafted, he was the defensive rookie of the year. Like, dude, that would be a hell of a fall off. Hey, but fuck the Saints, man. Good for them.
Oh, that's right. Isaac Irvin said to the cop said, "You'll shoot your dick off with it," because he had it like just stuffed in his pants or something. Like it's a weird story. Bob Rose is the one who told me about. But okay, so schedule, kind of a tale of 2 halves. What about this? It could be a cool storyline. Is this you start off real hot, you run into some adversity maybe, and but if you knock off like. Say you knock off like one of the 2, the Cardinals and the Dolphins, and then somehow you're on the road. But all of a sudden, these could be big stake games. Week 15, we might be really good going into Buffalo and like trying to prove that we're a real team that can win, looking for a statement game.
The only thing that's really tough is just not knowing what the NFC East is going to be like. I mean, the fact that we really do. I mean, from the Cowboys to the Eagles to the Giants to Washington, like there is no certainty anywhere there. Like maybe Fitzmagic is good for them, and that defense does the most for him. Sure, 100%. Then Daniel Jones, like they're all kind of wondering if this is going to be the year that he takes that step forward. I mean, they have Saquon Barkley. They just drafted the kid from Florida, Kadarius Toney. They have Saquon Barkley. They have players, So it's just so hard to know who they're going to be. But back to my 6-game thing, Tony. If we extrapolate that out one more, so let's just say after week 7, you find out who's for real. Then that's right when our schedule starts to heat up, because week 7 or week 8 rather, that's when we get the Falcons at home, and that's when shit just starts to ratchet up. So it's like right when it comes time for the Panthers to prove that we're a legitimate contender, like it's going to be right around that same time frame, man.
I think another thing about you said that the uncertainty of the NFC East. In a way, I almost feel that way about our own division. Is that I have things that I want to believe about the teams, right? I mean, as right now, Tampa Bay is untouchable until they're not. They're the champs, and they brought back the whole squad and stuff. So
Tampa Bay seems like a lock at this point.
Right. And I mean, there's no reason or evidence to think otherwise at this point.
They returned the whole team and drafted more players.
But I don't think that there's so many unknowns with the other 3 teams, including ourselves, in that discussion for the rest of the division.
Yeah.
Whether it be the Saints and the problems at a defense that might have gotten older quickly and then has no backfield to it. Questions about who's going to be the starter. Someone asked, do we even know if Winston's going to be the starter? No, we're not sure.
I heard Sean Payton on Rich Eisen say they intend to have a quarterback battle between Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. So again, that's why
you don't know, and then you don't know anything about the Falcons either. Oh, I mean, we have some things we want to believe about the Falcons. The Matt Ryan, the Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts. We want to believe that these are automatically going to equate to them bouncing back offensively. And you add Arthur Smith or whatever from the Titans as their new head coach, and he's supposed to be, like what he's done with some of these offenses and what he's been able to work with. Now you give him kind of the best tools, but still, I thought that they were going to be really good on offense last year.
Yeah, and I think the question with them, and we were asking our guests this last night, the defense. Like, we just don't know what Atlanta's defense is going to be. On paper, there's no reason that the Falcons shouldn't have one of, if not the best offense in the NFL. I mean, they're loaded. Dude. Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, now they're drafting Kyle Pitts. Like,
Mike Davis. Forgot, the Mike Davis revenge.
If y'all say so, Mike Davis. Yeah, man, that's a tough team. That's a tough team. As much as you want to shit on the Falcons, that's a tough team, and that's when shit gets real, in my opinion. Like, that's when it gets tough. Here's a question that might be kind of out of left field. How much time do you think we will see Sam Darnold get in the preseason?
Ooh.
Yeah, good one.
Probably not that much, to be honest. I mean, really, what do you got 3 preseason games? You got to wonder when they're going to, are you going to try to put in the past, in week 3, they've done like basically on a team that really wanted to see a lot from their quarterback, they would play their starter for maybe 3 quarters. Maybe, so just to start third.
But now that there's 3, because there used to be 4, do you think that that's moved up to preseason game 2? Like, which game do you think that'll be when they play their starters the majority of the time? Because preseason 3 is the Steelers, August 27th at home.
I feel like we've always played our starters against the Steelers too. Let's see what the dates are. I think some of it's going to be, when is the roster cut for, like, when do they have to get to 55, right? Is key dates 2021. Let's see if this says it. June, mini camp, Deadline franchise August. No, God, when do you have to have the roster to 55 is the question, or 60 or whatever it is. And if that is one of the things that did in week 4, I feel like that kind of there it was like you had to play players that were going to be cut, or you couldn't play players that were going to be cut in week 4. So I wonder if the 53 man or whatever that you have to make that announcement is it after the 3rd preseason game, because if it's after the 3rd preseason game, then I could see basically you just trotting out the starters for a first half of the 3rd game, and that's it.
Yeah. Where was that?
What do you think? Do you think he's going? What do you think they're going to? Maybe they just want to see him play 2 halves. That'd be interesting. Why don't you just put him out there against Baltimore for our first half, and again against the Steelers, and try to get some reps and kind of get some chemistry going.
Yeah, and then Jedi George said he thinks that Will Greer is going to get most of the snaps to see if he's worth keeping. I mean, between him and PJ Walker, seeing what we have as a backup. Because again, dude, it's like we can't handle another season of poor quarterback play. It's like if this starts to go downhill fast, like that's a nightmare scenario, because it doesn't look like we have too much behind Sam, unless Will Greer is able to turn around his career. But again, dude, it's like it's so played out at this point, but it's the truest thing that we can say. Our season is going to rest on how good Sam Darnold can be for us. And that's just a fact, man. Like, this team was already in 8 or 9 different 1-score games last year that we lost. Sam Darnold has to be the difference, because Teddy Bridgewater clearly was not the difference last year. And we need Sam to turn it up and prove to be worth that number 3 overall pick that he once upon a time was. So
Lee Trotter said I would not play CMC in the preseason.
True.
And
I wouldn't either.
And then just give Chuba Hubbard and the other guys all the reps and let them take all the beating.
Yeah. And see why you drafted him,
I know. I almost wouldn't even play Brian Burns in the preseason either.
No, dude, I wouldn't play Brian. Dude, how about this? I'm not playing Brian Burns. I might not even play Jeremy Chin.
I play Derek Brown, who's just as important as any of them in a way, to the improving run defense that we got to be. Like the defense was getting punched in the mouth so up the middle. He's an important piece in this puzzle. Like if we don't have him, the interior defense goes downhill real quick.
Yep. So Tony, listen, too many people are just asking about it.
All right, we got to do it.
Right. I think
it's what I really wanted to do the show about, to be honest. That's what the whole topic.
I kind of figured. So let me go ahead and share this right quick.
Actually, you know what? Before we get into that here, let me do one thing. Let's do our plug. It's not too late right now. Our friend Kevin Brown, solar consultant for Volta Energy, he's got a deal for if you're a homeowner in North or South Carolina and you want to cut your cord with the electric company and achieve energy independence, take advantage of tax credits, state, federal tax credits, add equity to your home. You can do that by contacting Kevin Brown, solar consultant for Volta, 704-215-3373. That's 704-215-3373. Tell them that the guys at the C3 Panthers podcast sent you over there, and that you're a Panther fan as well, and he'll take good care of you. Got to tell him that you heard about him on the C3 Panthers podcast, because he's a big fan of the show, and right away you'll have somebody that's automatically a brother in arms, a champion for you in your quest to achieve energy and independence. All right, let's go ahead and go with it.
All right, so Teddy Bridgewater was on a podcast with Patrick Peterson and Brian McFadden, and I don't necessarily know or remember what they asked him per se, but this is basically what Teddy Bridgewater had to say about his time in Carolina. And he, let's just say he said some things that had not only me pissed off, but a lot of Panther fans really up in arms.
The whole deal in Carolina, it is what it is, man. I told him, once the season ended that I wear big boy draws, man, and I understand the nature of this business, and it's a performance-based business. And, yeah, I could sit up here and say, okay, Christian got hurt, or we didn't have this, didn't have that, but that's not me. I look in that mirror and I say, hey, you got to tighten up. So it's, little things, that I could have done better. And, as an organization, it's things that, you can do better as well. But I think, man, I'll just say this for Joe Brady's growth. I think, man, like that organization, they'll have to like just practice different things, in different ways. Like one of the things we didn't do much of when I was there, we didn't practice 2-minute really. We didn't practice red zone,
What?
So
the most important thing.
What?
That's
what you used to have a whole day devoted for 2-minute in red zone. That's Thursday practice.
Yeah, I mean it's I guess the game, man, is becoming about science, and trying to keep guys healthy. So you didn't practice on Fridays there, but you walk through the red zone stuff, and then Saturday you come out and practice red zone, but you only get like 15 live reps, and guys reps will be limited. Yeah, so I mean, that's the unknown, but I'm a pro, man. I could sit up here and throw all of that out there,
but you just did, stupid, bro, dude. Everything this man does drives me up a fucking wall, dude. His voice even annoys me. How are you gonna say
his fucking teddy bear sweatshirt? I want to punch him in his face for it.
Dude, it's like, I gotta look in the mirror and talk about myself first and foremost. But then in the same breath, let me also name all of the excuses imaginable for why the team sucked.
He said, I could talk about how we didn't have CMC, but I'm not that guy, even though I just was that guy when I said that.
Fucking did, man.
Yeah, it's like he said, but I'm not that type of dude. I got my big boy drawers on, right? Then he says this, that they didn't, it's talking about Joe Brady's growth, so now you're talking about a guy who was brought into this organization, given a giant check because of his familiarity with Joe Brady's system and all of this and how well he is. And you're trying to tell me that this guy is over here. Ultimately, I mean, he's like, hey, this guy, like he's throwing shade on Joe Brady as not being well organized enough or, too wet behind the ears. But then one way he says something out one side of his mouth, and then the other outside his other side of his mouth, he says something different. He went and said, we didn't practice red zone, 2-minute and red zone. He said, but then on Friday, we did walkthroughs for red zone. Yeah. And on Saturday, we practiced red zone.
It's so stupid.
He's like a lot. It's two-faced Teddy. And one other thing, Mr. I'm a professional and this and that. I've been to training camps. Like when we say that they practice red zone what does he want? 100 reps? Like the training camp, they run the route one time and they say, you got it? Like the practices are 2 hours. What do you want them to do?
My thing is this though. You saw Pat Peterson and the guys with Brian McFadden, like their instant reaction to hearing that. They're like, bro, what? Like y'all didn't practice. Like that's one of the most important things that a team runs. Listen, that's why I'm having such a hard time believing this. Like, is Teddy just fucking bold-faced lying just to save his own stupid face? Because let me tell you, bro, I have a hard time believing that the Panthers were one of the worst teams in the red zone. We knew that we didn't have Christian McCaffrey for most of the year, and yet we're not practicing our red zone efficiency. Like, what fucking sense does that make at all?
Look at this. This is 2 good points by Jetta Jor and Jay Young, also referencing limitations because of the pandemic, right? Is that we have people in protocol throughout the season. You're really trying to limit contact completely in this kind of bizarre year we had. They're practicing with damn masks on. Do you remember all the photos of them practicing with masks on with their little fucking armbands where they couldn't be within 6 feet of each other? So there's no mention of how that impacted. It's just like, oh, well, we just didn't do like these guys didn't know what they were doing. And then the other thing is that he mentioned the science part. Wasn't he one of them nursing an injury all throughout the season? Weren't we dealing with Teddy's hamstring and knee, and he was limited? So I bet you the idea was this is COVID world with a nicked up quarterback. Let's go run this play. Let's do it 50 times. You're right, Teddy Bridgewater. We're trying to get you to be able to play on Sunday. It seems, how could we have been so competent as an organization last year when it came to Matt Rule's first season, Joe Brady's first season offensive coordinator? He's never been the dude. These are big shoes to step into. And I would say that the Carolina Panthers were presentable enough that where we have in this bizarre, also these challenges of the COVID situation, like I would say that the coaching staff on all fronts impressed me more than I expected them to have to, and under those circumstances. So how can they be so incompetent to not even think about 2-minute practices, but then put together a team that actually was respectable in a pandemic?
Yeah, and even still, we were like, dude, what happened? Okay, if that's true, good Lord, look out when we actually do start practicing fucking red zone. And another, and by the way, shout out 89J Stubbs sent us $1.99. Says wide receivers running down the field wide open. What the fuck is he saying? And John Ellis on Twitter today was basically posting video clips of all the numerous red zone plays that we had where there were one, if not two, wide receivers open in the end zone just for Teddy to throw an interception or throw a ball with the least amount of zip that you have ever seen from an NFL quarterback, dude. Like, just embarrassing. And then when he does shit like this, man, like, it just makes it even worse. That he's so, like, one of my worst fears in life is not knowing how I sound to other people. To be one of those guys that just can't ever read the room and read what people are saying and thinking about them, like, that's a nightmare. If you're Teddy Bridgewater, how are you so unaware of not only who you are as a player, but how your words make you look like such a bitch, bro? They make him look like such a bitch. He whines all the time. He makes excuses for why he fucks up, why he damn near tore DJ's ACL in half by missing that pass in the back of the end zone. Like, bro, it's the dumbest shit in the world to me. 89J Sub says that's a narcissist. And I think I agree with him, man. I think this dude is too far up his own ass, man.
Sorry, my daughter's talking to me. I think you can almost pinpoint the week that this mess soured. And it was that Minnesota game. After the Minnesota game, I said, was that the game he had the fumble into at the beginning? The fumble on the goal line, and then he said, and they said, "This is how we handle it." Here is Teddy. This is us after the week after that Minnesota game, and this is Teddy Bridgewater talking about the final moments. And I think this is the beginning of the end of Teddy Bridgewater in Carolina, and also some sort of divide I think happened between him and the staff. Is that like, how is it that the Carolina Panthers and this guy who they coveted so much, the relationship cooled so quickly? Here's Teddy Bridgewater talking about how basically it wasn't his fault, and then he would come out and change his story later on,
trying to figure out what play call to call. In that situation, because it's like, man, do you run the ball and, get stopped, make the clock go down to probably a minute or 10, throw the ball, try to score. And I think, honestly, we called a great play. We just didn't have enough time to execute the play. It was a play where we wanted to shift Robbie to get a good, man zone read, see what defense they're in. And because we, we're against the clock, we just had to rush into it. I think if, we would have got the play call in, or we would have been able to make a decision sooner on what call to make. I think we see the look, we check to a run play, and hopefully we score or, we make the clock go down. But just one of those deals where, DJ popped open, wasn't the right look, but still just got to hit the throw problem.
TJ, I'm sorry. Let me follow up real quick on that. So you're saying that the play came into you late from the sidelines?
No, it was just one of those deals where I think they were trying to decide, how we wanted to approach the situation.
Basically saying they were late.
Run the ball, like I said, get the clock down, and then before you know it, once you made a decision, have about 15 seconds, just try to hurry up and get the play snapped. But looking back, like I said, if we could have just, got it off, a second or 3 seconds later, we would have got into a run play and had a better chance to score a touchdown.
My favorite part about this is he still just wanted to check into a run. Like that was the whole point. Yeah. It's like, I don't want the ball, dude. If I would have had 3 more seconds, I could have not been the guy making them.
Do you all see now how we have played 2 examples of Teddy Bridgewater talking out of both sides of his mouth in the same sentence? He's like, oh, no, I think they were just trying to, get the right play call in, which is basically saying that, yeah, they took too long figuring shit out, and it was on them that it took too long to get the play call in. And then right there in the clip that we just played, oh, well, I don't want to bring up Christian McCaffrey being hurt and even though you just fucking did, you moron. Like,
so after that Minnesota game, after that exact discussion right there, then Matt Rule and them came on afterwards, right? And they were like, well, I haven't talked to Teddy. I haven't heard his comments yet. And then 2 days later, the next day, Teddy Bridgewater basically came out, walked it back, and apologized. But after that moment, yeah, because he got chewed the fuck out. And they said, we're going to bench you.
But he's also on Twitter all the time and sees what everyone says about him. And you saw everyone fucking roasting his ass.
So then it just seemed like the relationship between him and the staff deteriorated more and more from that point on, right?
Yeah.
And right now, I think, if anything, these comments just show that they didn't part ways on good terms.
No, not at all. So
can we hear what Matt Rule's got to say?
Man, you're reading my brain, Tony. So I have not seen this. Someone in our chat room said they were not impressed with Matt Rule's answer on this, but we shall see. This is what Matt Rule had to say when asked about
that. I have the ultimate respect for Teddy. I think in his comments today, he said, he came in after the year and said, hey, I won't, I wear my big girl pants, I'll handle things. He's the ultimate professional, which I've
did he say big girl pants
many times. Like, the way things go, and when we traded him, I called him.
I think he did.
And at the end of the day, I hope that Denver is a great situation for him. I like who he is as a man. I like who he is as a football player. I like who he is as a leader. And
just not enough to be here.
Like him as well. So I think if you went back through my comments all of last year, you can't find a bad comment. I don't have anything negative to say. I think he's a great dude. And unfortunately, part of this business is trading guys and moving on from guys. And that's the part I haven't really liked about pro football. But it's the necessary part, and that happened. Hopefully, we did it the right way, and I expect him to have tremendous success. As I've said, I have the ultimate.
Yeah, so that was about it. A lot, and look, Jay Young kind of says what I feel like a lot of Panther fans are kind of feeling too. I'm not really impressed with anything that Matt Rule had to say about this, or they're kind of, not, wishing that he would have gone a little bit harder. But he was never going to do that, This is the head coach of the Panthers. You also don't want it to look like, exactly. Sports Nut in the chat says as being a pro, and you also
you don't want to say things like, "Well, I'm not going to bring up the fact that we had COVID, but we had COVID." I'm not going to bring up the fact that We didn't have Dick CMC.
Yeah, I would love
but
it if he just did all the same shit that Teddy Bridgewater did. Just said a bunch of bad things, like but out of the side of his mouth, like Teddy did. That would be awesome. But also, you also don't want players in the future to think, oh, well, once the Panthers move on from you, Matt Rule will consider you fair game to air out all your dirty laundry about what you did.
Dude, we gave him a goodbye thank you post.
Yeah.
On social media.
Cam didn't really even get that kind of send off.
No, and guess what he didn't do either when he left? Grind an axe.
Yep, didn't talk shit about no one.
He didn't.
The only thing Cam Newton did was say, I did not request to be traded.
Yeah, that's it.
And that was the only thing.
The one other thing I think that's interesting is that so many of our perceptions are just fixed. Like we form these beliefs about people or things with very little evidence, and then we hold on to them dearly, right? One of those for a long time was that Cam Newton was a big time egomaniac, narcissist, self-centered, bad teammate. And all what we have seen is like people and reports the whole time we watched him that suggest none of that is like true. Maybe he has got a big ego, maybe. Right. But but it wasn't like bad teammate, this and that. So, and then all you hear is that Teddy Bridgewater is the greatest dude. He's a great dude. He's a great dude, but he does more petty shit than anybody. But you know what? He's like, oh, sportsman of the war, like all of this. So another thing that has annoyed me mostly about this is that there is some sort of dichotomy that has popped up in Panther Nation, and maybe it's always been there and I just didn't notice it as much, but it's like right now is that like you can't dislike Teddy Bridgewater and like this coaching staff, right? Like you can't do, like they're going to tell you this. I was like
it's one or the other.
Like you have to either like hate on the coaching staff, then if you hate on the coaching staff, you got to love Teddy. And now you can't ever think that Sam Darnold's going to work. Like that's like, those are the rules, is that those are the rules. And I am not going to change my mind no matter what.
The people that is like, there's no difference between Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold. I'm sorry. That's honestly the most retarded bullshit I've ever heard. Like Teddy Bridgewater was never in contention to be a high first round pick. And the fact that he even made the 31st or 32nd pick whenever he was drafted was a reach, in my opinion. He's never been a first round kind of player. And then, it's like people want to do this thing where they, in order to say and show how, how underserviced Teddy Bridgewater was, they do this thing where, oh man, Joe Brady and Matt Rule were, calling the wrong plays or not getting them in fast enough or not practicing enough.
Or this is the line. Here's the actual line that now has come about, and that is, man, this really, what Teddy Bridgewater's saying really makes a lot of sense since we are so bad in 2-minute situations, the red zone, in the fourth quarter. And ironically, these are all the things that Teddy Bridgewater, who is kind of saying that the Carolina Panthers need to get better at. That's what he gave Joe Brady a coaching lesson. And it turns out what are the 3 things he's terrible at? 2-minute, red zone, and fourth quarter. It's funny. I mean, there's some, but I have a singular question about this, is that for the people that are so adamantly, like you say, underserviced, like here's one of a lot of people, there's a big point to the time in the pocket, 2.3 seconds, like one of the worst time in the pockets in the entire world, in the existence, right? That they use that stat. My thing is, didn't we have a lot of injury on that offensive line? Didn't we have a first-year head coach? Didn't we have a first-year offensive coordinator? Like, I'm like, what did you need to happen to prove to you that these guys have some sort of potential, right? Like, it's like, why is it that when we look at the tape here, that the least potential are the two people that are brand new on the job. But this other guy who's been on the job for 7 years, we're going to dismiss everything about that.
Yeah.
And believe you me, if Sam Darnold comes out and shits the bed against the Jets or any of these teams early on, you think they're going to be going, well, look at the little amount of time out of the pocket he's got.
No, they're going to be talking shit about Sam Darnold. And that's the thing. It's just hypocrisy. Like, people want to claim that, we're more excited about Sam Darnold and that we're giving Sam more of a chance than we ever did Teddy. But that's not really even true, because we wanted the Panthers to win. So if that meant Teddy Bridgewater winning us football games, we wanted him to do it. We just didn't ever think that he would. Whereas there's a legitimate reason to believe that Sam Darnold can take that next step.
Could, but we're gonna have to see a lot too. Like, here's the
Sure.
thing: is we're in a season of optimism right now. So
Yeah,
you want to know
one has
why we
earned
can
their
believe
flowers.
in Sam Darnold is because we haven't had the opportunity to not believe in him yet. I mean, like, well, we gotta drink the Kool-Aid at this point. We made the trade. That we gotta believe that the team really sees something that they can work with, and they got some good value. And if we go out and he's terrible, and very quickly we'll say, and he's broken. It's not going to work.
No one has earned their flowers. No one. Like, no one.
And,
no
one person who hasn't, Teddy Bridgewater. You know why? Is he going to be starting for Denver this year? How about that, folks? If this guy is so good, this and that, and our offensive staff, people are calling our staff incompetent right now.
I bet you anything Drew Lock starts over Teddy Bridgewater.
I agree. I don't think he's starting.
Anything, bro. Anything. He's not a starter. Like, he's just not a starter. Look at what Denver traded for him. Like, we're still paying most of that guy's contract. We're paying $7 million of his contract this year.
We're paying the whole
and they offered Dick to trade for him. So it's like they're not really on the hook for anything. So
I do think that people have a point, is that we can't dismiss that Sam Darnold has been anything but a letdown to this point. He hasn't played well.
Right.
And particularly in the last 2 years. He's had some struggles with injuries. So there's some questions there. One of them was like mono, though, that kept him out forever. There is, but one person I found interesting that commented on this was the Jets' new head coach. And I'm trying to find the quote. He said it, and it was Robert Saleh.
Yeah, I think I know what
Saleh was talking about their draft that they just did, and the Jets draft. Let's see, Jets NFL draft picks. He ultimately said, "All right, so they picked their first 4 picks were offensive." They picked Zach Wilson. They picked an offensive lineman. They picked Elijah Moore, and they picked running back Michael Carter. And Robert Saleh came out and said that the time over the last couple of years where they were able to pick a player like Sam Darnold, who is now they're effectively doing the same exact thing with Zach Wilson, informed them on this draft. And ultimately, he said Sam Darnold was in an untenable situation entirely. Like, he was like, look, Sam was put in a tough place. He didn't overcome it, but I'm not sure anybody could have. So even, so it's just interesting. Is that, and do you want to give up on Sam Darnold? Potentially, is that, and look, we do have to pay him for 10 years. Now we took the 5th-year option. We are sinking a ton of money in quarterbacks. And if he doesn't work out, I mean, it's going to be a problem. And I think that the staff and the organization is going to have to answer for it if he doesn't work out. But if it does, it's a great reclamation project.
It's one of those things that the move that we did for Sam Darnold, it's only either boom or bust. It can't be good. There's no way that it's just good, right? Because if Sam Darnold,
that's what Teddy was.
Well, because if Sam Darnold sucks, then it means that, one, we missed out on Matthew Stafford, which is who they wanted originally, and then we let Justin Fields fall by us. So
and the other dude, Mac Jones. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, even if you like to say it's not Justin Fields,
but if it goes the other way, Scott Fitterer and Matt Rule and Dave Tepper looks like they're fucking playing 5D chess and everyone else is playing checkers, especially with how they navigated the draft and trading back and recouping all of what they lost in the Bridgewater trade.
I think in some ways is that you get the payoff of you get the payout of like a long shot pick. You know, you're buying a ticket that's got long odds on it, but the ticket is cheap. You know, it's kind of cheap. Is that if you would have drafted Justin Fields and you had questions at 8 and stuff like that, I don't know if those questions are legitimate or not. I still think that I was shocked that they let him go by. But the payoffs are similar to the two guys, right? It's like either they both work out or they don't, right? Or, you know, and the ticket price, though, I think is just cheaper on Darnold. You let the Jets pay the high ticket price on him already.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater, I'm really just pissed that it's kind of like this coaching set, but really, and then the people who have a lot of suspicions about Matt Rule. And look, I don't think he's on. I think there's a lot of questions. He's still got a ton to prove. Joe Brady's still got a lot to prove to me. But I think I just feel like their first day on the job, that went pretty well for day one, right? And as they get more experience, I think they're going to get better too. Is that you didn't get this guy and go, oh man, why did we hire this motherfucker? Oh my God, this is a disaster. You know, we're not thinking about firing Matt Rule after last year.
No.
Right. And so the idea that when people say, well, look, this is why we were so bad in this staff and like we didn't practice this. Can you believe this? This is why we were bad in the red zone. It seems like such a condemnation of the staff and a lack of confidence and optimism and just what they can be. And I don't think that that's fair either.
No. And how about this, man? Like for all the people that want to the Joe Brady criticism is what really drives me crazy. Because listen, Teddy Bridgewater, for all the shit that we talk about him, statistically had a career year last year and only managed 15 touchdowns, was terrible in the red zone. And yet, Joe Brady's offense produced 4 players with 1,000 yards from the line of scrimmage. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, and Mike Davis.
And CMC was not one of them.
And CMC was not one of them. So that dude, it's like when it comes to Phil Snow and Joe Brady, it's like any criticism I see of them, it's like I really don't. It just shows me that people have unreasonable expectations. Like I remember saying this to you before last season, Tony. Like we all knew that last year wasn't going to be our year. It wasn't going to be our year to win much of anything. We're in the start of a rebuild. So our hopes were never that high. But now we're into the second year of a rebuild. We've added a ton of players. We've had an incredible free agency. So it's like looking at what our coaching staff was able to do when our roster had so many deficiencies on different parts of the team. Like it's almost, they almost had a fantastic opening season in the NFL, especially considering there were 8 games that the Panthers lost by 1 score or less. Like, come on, dude. If that doesn't make you hopeful for the future of what this team can be, dude, I don't know what will.
Agreed. All right. So we've talked about the schedule. We've talked about homeboy Teddy. We've talked about the staff. I think that's about all the news I got for this. Is that I just could not let this Teddy stuff go untouched.
Yep. And then apparently I'm looking on Twitter, everyone's saying that the ticket prices for the Patriots and the Panthers are fucking crazy. I saw someone say Tepper is never getting into heaven.
I'm hoping, like, we don't know what the capacity is yet, right? Like, is it limited capacity at this point? They can't be selling that stadium out right now.
Well, someone asked earlier, what do they intend to have a full stadium this year?
Well, they
And
want that. It's just like, what will the governor say on June? I think he's going to say it in June or July. Like he said, he expects to have all the COVID restrictions gone by June 1st.
Yeah, I think so. I genuinely think. And dude, like now it seems like every week they're opening up the vaccine to new age groups.
Yeah,
or
now
whatever.
they're going to be giving it to kids.
Yeah, they just open it up from like 12 to 15-year-olds or whatever or below. So yeah, by the time August rolls around and then early September, I anticipate we're gonna have a full stadium. I really don't see why not. I mean, they're selling the tickets.
This will make you mad right here. This will make you mad.
Bro,
People want to see
fucking
Mac Jones.
Vito Thon trolling, bro. By the way,
I mean, what he could be, Cam could be hurt by that point. It could be. You know what I mean?
Why would y'all put that on Cam, man? He'll be fine.
I think he is. I think, I'm hoping a resurrection year for him.
Man, that would listen, I'm sorry. Like the only team that wouldn't make me happy if Cam was on and they were doing well is the Falcons.
Yeah.
The Falcons are probably the Saints.
Yeah.
But those are the only two. Any other team that Cam Newton is on when he's not playing the Panthers, I'm fucking pulling for the team that he's on. I
agree.
Cam
All right.
Newton.
All right. You got anything else?
No, man. I think that's about it. I like the schedule, man. I think it's a tale of two halves. But those are my final thoughts, pretty much. We're gonna know around week 7 or week 8. From then on, we're gonna find out what kind of football team we are. That the opening half of our schedule, to me, looks very favorable, and I think we have a very strong chance to really start our season on fire. Like really come out of the gate blazing.
I do think that I agree with you. It's like on the face of it, that is the story and that's the expectation. We all know this is that everything is different when it comes about. So, is that it could turn out that the back end of the schedule isn't as mean and nasty by that point in the year as we thought it was because of what's going on with other teams. It could plan out just like we're thinking, is like as long as these teams continue on their current trajectory, this is a brutal back end stretch. But one thing that's cool about this to me, about that brutal back end picture, is I think I saw those comments, said it.
Yeah, it just popped it in your head.
Imagine if though we were able to kind of start body bagging people at the end of the season and they were good teams and you got momentum. Like that could be a cool thing too, is you start knocking off some big dogs and getting some real in week 13 and getting some real your ball, then all of a sudden you go into Buffalo and you aren't, playing scared. That would be a cool. So there's an opportunity with that challenge.
Yeah, a real opportunity. I like the start of our schedule. It's that last half that's just really gonna be nerve-wracking, I think, man. But I'm definitely pumped, Tony. And you and I have said this on numerous occasions. This year, going into this season, it just feels so much more exciting. Like there's an energy behind this season that just we were not feeling at the start of last year. And frankly, it's impossible to feel I mean, I can only speak for myself, but it's kind of impossible to feel excited going from my favorite quarterback of all time to Teddy fucking Bridgewater. And my college quarterback was coming out in the draft. It was like last year, I wanted every bad thing to, go wrong as far as us winning and losing. But this year, it's like a polar opposite 180. I'm pumped. I like our chances. I like the depth. I like what we've added. Our receiving core looks incredible. Our front seven looks like they are much improved. The only worry, which we'll probably touch on this in the future and more in depth in a later show, is our safety position right now Tony, our safety depth is fucking abysmal, bro. Like, we have no one. Dude, we might want to sign Trey Boston back. We might want to sign Trey Boston back.
You're right. I mean, Burris, I think they're counting on Burris to be a contributor. The Franklin kid, who's, is okay, man. But he was young. All right, let's see the picture. I know that's what you've been working on.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Tony. And
I was thinking if we could get this guy first, tell me about the show a little bit.
So basically, it's just like people that have like a family heirloom, like a blanket or some drapery or some shit, and they have a stain or maybe even like a plush. This one dude had like a little Snoopy from like the 1960s or whatever, and it was all dirty and shit. And he basically just makes everything like brand new, man. He's a real magician in the laundry room.
So if we can get him on the podcast,
I need to figure out what his name is.
We got to get this guy on the podcast, and it'll be like, how do you get grass stains out of a football jersey? Or
yeah.
God, I've been tripping out over that shit all day, bro.
And you said you told your wife, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told my wife. She said, "Oh, that." And I said, "People said." I said, "Man, these things they've been clowning me all day that this guy's my brother." And they said he'd have to be your older brother, your dad. She said, "I was like, God, hey,
take your hat off, man. Take the hat off. Come on." I
got my hair up, man. Right now.
Yeah, all right. I can't blame you. I got my hair up too. But yeah, dude, you and him have the same head of hair, man.
His is white though. Mine has got some silver streaks in it, big time though.
Yeah. Hey, man, that's your brother, dude. You need to reach out to your family, man. It's weird times, and you need your family now more than ever. So reach out to them, man.
All right, man. That's the C3 Panthers podcast. Also, Alternative Laundry Management podcast. My name's Tony Dunn. You can follow my work on here, as well as what are we on, Discovery Channel or something?
Yeah, check out Tony on Discovery Plus. He'll be getting the pasta stains out of a t-shirt.
Oh, the mustard stain out of a jersey, right? The mustard always right on the number right away. Yeah. First time you wear it. All right. We're here live Tuesday night, 9 p.m., 252-228-5098, longest running Panthers podcast. Don't forget, or I have not forgotten that. I got to calculate the winners from the draft night. I have the spreadsheet built. Forgive me, guys. I know that in a vacuum, that like content creators look like they just do this and that's all they do. But at the same time, the semester ended for me yesterday. Like, it's the last week of the semester is crazy busy. The draft was the same week. It's just a nightmare. So I'm going to get a little time off from work, be back on my feet, recharged, have those results for you on Tuesday night. And you got what you got going on, Cody?
Really not too much, man. Draft tech is all simmered down. So find me on Twitter, holler at me, at Cody Lack. I'll be bullshitting about something, man. So come hit me up. And yeah, dude, I'm pumped. I'm loving it. I feel like now the draft is over. The schedule's been released. Now we've truly hit that downturn period where we're just
because you got to get mini camps. Yeah, I heard actually Penei Sewell tested positive for COVID and is going to miss his rookie mini camp.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, shit.
All right, guys, we'll be back on Tuesday.
If you're gonna get it Tuesday, now, huh?
Yeah, that's the truth. Back on Tuesday, 9:00 at @cat_chronicles here, at Cody Lack over there, and we'll see you Tuesday.
Later. Keep pounding.